I love baking experiments. For this one, I decided to take the dough from my latest 7-inch gluten-free sourdough recipe and divide it into 4. I wanted to test the different proofing times. Because each quarter was smaller at about 255 grams, I chose to bake the first dough ball right away. The second with the 1-hour rise, the third got just a little over a 2-hour rise, and the last rose for about 3.5 hours. You'll notice from these pictures that the shape once baked improves with a longer proof. CA for no rise to D with the longest rise, but when you look at each one slice, the crumb is actually pretty similar in appearance. When you feel each piece, the longer rise helps to lighten the texture. It's nice and soft and even springier. When tasting each quarter, the 2 and 3+ hour rise is better for sure. Proofing dough, even gluten-free sourdough, is necessary to improve the mouthfeel of bread. But it was neat to see that even without proofing time, for the first dough piece, the appearance of loaf A, once it was sliced, was actually pretty good. The outside crust looked denser when baked without rising the dough first. The crust crisps up much nicer after some proofing time. The takeaway from this quick experiment is that if you're new to gluten-free sourdough baking, rising the dough, also called proofing, is necessary. At a minimum, if unsure, I feel that 3 hours would be a great start. For more tips, I suggest checking out the short blog post I wrote for this experiment. I will link it below. It includes a few more baking tips and things to try if you're working really hard to improve your gluten-free sourdough baking skills. It's important to note that the ingredients you use, the liveliness of the gluten-free starter, the environment in which you bake in will also play a huge role in the outcome of your loaves. Did you know that even when you mix a gluten-free sourdough recipe that does have more of a batter-like consistency, it still needs time to proof before it bakes? Doing so gives a chance for the wild yeast starter and ingredients to do their thing and help your dough rise even more when baking. If you follow me here and or on Instagram, you know that I love experimenting. And for my last 2 bakes, I've been testing gluten-free sourdough recipes without psyllium husk. Do you know that when you don't use psyllium, you can actually slice your loaf when it's still a bit warm? It's often the darn psyllium husk that many of us use in gluten-free vegan bread baking that can make things a bit sticky at times. And note that I never use xanthan gum in any of my bread recipes, but that can also contribute to sticky textures when warm. I'll keep you posted on my progress, but I'm really excited about this one because who doesn't want to enjoy bread when it's still warm and the crust is still perfectly crispy, right? That's been my issue with many of my other gluten-free vegan bread recipes with psyllium husk. They need to cool completely before they can be sliced. Even using flaxseed meal can create a slightly sticky texture, but it's not as bad as with psyllium. Anywho, I hope this quick video gave you a better visual of what you can expect with various rising times. Lastly, perhaps I should do another quick video to show you what could happen with longer proofing times. Doing so could increase the chance of overproofing your dough. Longer proofing times don't necessarily mean a better crumb. It could bake up as a dense brick or even create the flying crust effect, which is when the top crust separates from the loaf. Trust me, the more you bake, you'll get to experience it at least once or twice. Then you'll probably never do it again because it's a little bit frustrating. Happy baking! Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so yet, and I will see you in the next one.